Cube World has gone into closed beta after 6 years, but for some of the fans, the changes made have ruined the game that they once loved. I'm going to talk about many of the criticisms the game has received and what changes I would personally make to Cube World. First, we must focus on what makes Cube World a good game. Cube World is an open world, randomly generated RPG, and there isn't many of them around. A big focus of Cube World is exploration, which in many open world games is there but is not encouraged. Quite often you will be given a dotted line and you must just follow it from point A to point B, and you don't really enjoy the world around you. Cube World does this differently. It has quests like you would find in the typical game, but there's no guidance except for a single point on the map. You must explore to find new areas and find towns in the first place to even be given quests. Cube World has 100% focus on the exploration of this game, and although all these quests are within the same region, moving to a new region and finding a town gives you a whole new bag of quests to do in that region. The way Picoroma, and more specifically Wallay, decided to tackle quests was to have them all within one region. The benefit of this is it keeps players within a certain area and doesn't make it so a quest is over 300 miles away that would take the player hours to get to just to get a simple bit of gold. The downside to this is all the quests and items are all specific to that region. This is where players start to get annoyed. A good part of RPGs is getting better gear to take and tackle better enemies. Wallay decided to do everything in a different way. He got rid of XP completely and decided that gear and items would be your version of XP. This makes killing enemies completely pointless except for the only benefit of maybe a drop of items or some gold. It's an interesting way to take on Cube World, and I applaud him for trying something different. This isn't common in many RPGs, and I think that this is a nice breath of fresh air to the industry. So let's talk about the bad parts of Wallay's vision. Enemies now become pointless unless they are part of a quest, as that is when you'll get the items and the benefits from killing them. Otherwise, seeing enemies along the world, you might as well just run past them or go invisible, because the only benefit to killing them is some money, or on a rare occasion, an item. Artifacts are also seem kind of pointless. This is the only way to level up in the game, which is by going into a dungeon, killing all the people and retrieving the artifact. You are given a level, but the actual reward from the artifact is only something very small, such as an increase in sailing, climbing, riding or diving, which is mostly useless to players and only helpful on the small occasion. There's no way to upgrade the physical skills of your character, and the only way they can be upgraded is in the form of armor, which adds benefits to them. The downside is once you leave your region, all your armor and its benefits are lost. Unfortunately, leveling up is also absent from pets. In the Cube World Alpha, you could level up your pets and they would train alongside you. This made pets feel really useful in combat, as it would be an extra person help you take down the enemies. But in the beta version of Cube World, pets are only there to offer you a ride so you could get to places quicker. They don't actually help particularly much in combat and seem to die in one hit to most of the hard enemies I go against. So how would I change Cube World? Personally, I applaud Wallay for trying something different. I think it's a breath of fresh air to the games industry to see it being done in a different way. And I know this kind of system with regional locking of items has been done before in games like No Man's Sky, but it's interesting to see it translated into Cube World. But if it was my game, there is a few changes I would make to make it more a bit of a smooth transition from a normal RPG player into what Cube World is envisioning. So the first of my ideas was to bring back XP like that we all love and know, but do it in a different way. The way you would tackle areas is they would all be level specific, so you would start off in an area that's only level 1 to 5, and then once you have leveled up enough you can then move into a new zone that is say 5 to 10. If you feel particularly risky, you can go straight into an area the level that is 10 to 20, but that would be a bit of more of a challenge that some players would be willing to take and others would not. This brings over a problem that is apparent in the alpha. Players can just grind simple mobs to get massive amounts of XP until they can tackle the next area and absolutely dominate it. The way you fix this is by simply having a cap on the enemies of how much XP they will drop dependent on their level. So a level 5 cow would only drop 100% XP when the player was less than level 5 or level 5, but once the player is above level 5 they will only drop 50% of the XP they should until, say, the player is over 3 levels higher than the cow, which at that point the cow would drop 0 XP. This then forces the player to move on to the next area in order to keep gaining experience. This makes it pointless for the player to keep attacking the enemies that are in the simple zones. The next problem is regional locking of equipment. I think regional locking of equipment can be done right, but I think there needs to be some tweaking to the formula that Wole has implemented. The first way I would tackle this is by leaving all equipment found within the region as locked to that region, but allow users to craft equipment that isn't region locked. This way it would enforce players to either gain skill in crafting equipment, which could be a new skill implemented into the game, or force players to search for the crafting books that are already in the game in order to get better equipment. The second option is to rework artifacts. They could be applied to items to break their region lock. This would then allow them to be used all across the world. The users will then have a tough decision of what item they wish to use the artifact on. If they were to use it on their sword, that means they would have a leg up in attacking in the next area, but if they used it on their armor, they would have more health and be ready to take damage. Additionally, they could use them on the hang glider or boat in order to have easier transport across the world. Another addition to the game that I think would really help benefit the RPG elements is to add more than just combat as a skill. As mentioned earlier, I think crafting should be a skill that you can learn in order to create better equipment, and even cooking could be a further skill. I think being able to create better life potions and stews would mean that they could heal you more, and also valuable time spent outside of combat. Overall, I think Cube World is still definitely a fun game to play in its beta, and there's definitely a lot of interesting ideas that Wole has tried to implement. I think there still needs to be a few tweaks to the system to make it more fun and feel more rewarding for completing areas. I'm looking forward to the future of the game, and I'm sure Wole will come out with some new features that address the problems that some players are having with the game. It's definitely a new way of looking at an RPG game, and I praise Wole for this.